The Own Your Intuitive podcast is for the creatives, spiritual entrepreneurs, and light workers in the world. The shining ones who have been told to dim their light and stop believing in magic. I say screw that. The time to rise is now. To bring your gifts out into the world in a big way, creating a business that feeds your soul and your bank account. You are a magical being with the potential to change the world, one human at a time. The time for you to own your intuitive is now. Hello, my friends. I am so excited about today's interview, and I want to give you a little bit of information why. Because randomly out of the blue, I received an email that simply said, like, hey, I listened to your podcast and I really want to get to know you. Can we set up a call? And I thought, wow, what an amazing way to get to know somebody or to reach out that not a lot of people are doing. And so my guest and I jumped on a phone call and it was love at first word. We were completely invested in this magical conversation. And I knew within a few minutes, guys, I had to have them on the show because it was through this conversation that I learned that Jen Heilman had an incredible business partner, Amanda Kingsley. And guys, I'm so excited that you are here and that you're open to sharing your magic with everybody that's listening today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Super fun to be here.
So guys, can you just give a little overview of what you guys do together? What is it that is your brand and biz?
We make magic happen.
Love it.
Right. We help women love their lives. That's the very quick synopsis of what we do. But yeah, we take a look at these women's lives and we look from the outside in and we look from the inside out. And so I'm the outside in with the Feng Shui and Amanda's the inside out with the life coaching and the thought work. So, and when we brought those two things together, we were just experiencing so much more results, and sustainable results than we were on our own with our coaching clients. And so we just dove in.
That's an incredible combination. I got to say that.
Yeah. It's pretty sweet. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because it's true. How many times have we heard that our, external world matches our internal world and vice versa, our internal world matches the external. And so the combination of you two together, is the ultimate in experiencing both of those co-creatively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like where something may be missed, in one area, having us both working from both angles, we touch on a lot of things that maybe would have, slipped by, and finding their themes, right? What's that reoccurring thing that's going on in their lives that's keeping them stuck? And when we're able to look at it from a Feng Shui point of view, and then, also from a thought point of view, we really can zero in. And
I think some of my favorite conversations we have are we'll meet for whatever, to record a podcast or something. And then we end up talking about a client and we're like, wait, did you know that this is happening in her house? And I'm like, wait, did you know this is happening in her life? And it just all clicks.
Right.
And then we can sort of go oh, if we put this and that together and work with her in this way, everything's going to change. Because it's that just magic.
Not lie. That's so freaking cool. I just got to say it, right? Because I'm sure everybody's listening. It's whoa, that is nobody could, because in all you don't hear of this.
We've
service
never
being
heard
out
of the combination ever. Yeah. So yeah. We're feeling really grateful and thankful that it came together because it's
okay. Well, I'm not going to ask how you guys met yet, because that is really the ultimate story that I love to get into. So first and foremost, I would love to know a little bit about each of you guys individually, with some back history of who you are and your origin story. So I don't know who wants to speak first, but
roll.
I'm kidding. Go. Action. All right. So my origin story. So I'll keep it short because it's a long one. But so I was always that kid that was rearranging my room, and even before that, I was making little houses out of shoe boxes, and, you know, like they had furniture, and, you know, it was all like cardboard cutouts and all that kind of stuff. And so I was always just fascinated by space and creating levels of home, you know, and I would move my room around because it didn't feel right, or, you know, I had that kind of innate need to shift things up in my life. And not that I knew what that was back then, you know, but looking back, I would, you know, if something would feel off, and so I would move my bed to this wall, or, you know, change this over there, you know, and
can you picture her? She's like 10. She's like, I got this. It feels better over here.
I know, that's a very intuitive, like, you know, that's very intuitive.
Right.
Truthfully.
Yeah. So, you know, and I would be so happy when I was done, and I would have like my mom come in and, Mom, look what I did, you know, and she was, you know, she's very space oriented as well. But so, you know, it was just one of those natural sorts of things. And then as I got older, you know, I just went into architecture, and that led me into the more of an interior design world. And then slowly it just kind of, those worlds didn't, there was like something missing in those worlds for me, right? In the interior design world, in the architecture world. And so I started to develop a need for this more spiritual side. And like we went to church and stuff when I was a kid, but it wasn't ever, you know, super hardcore religion or anything like that. And through my 20s, I felt, you know, very disconnected from, you know, source or God or whatever you want to call it. And so one of the women I was working for, she actually gave me a book. It was Deepak Chopra's 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And I was like, wow, you know, it really just, you know, I was like 25, and it started to open my eyes, but it was so brand new to me that I didn't even understand hardly anything in that book. I was just, what is this, you know? But I was really drawn to it. And so that kind of sent me on this more spiritual journey. And it wasn't until many years later that I was a stay-at-home mom with a very sick child. And I was kind of locked into being.
Can I ask how old you are and what was going on with your child, if you're open to sharing that?
Of course. So my second child, I have a daughter, and then 3 years later, my son was born, and he was born with congenital heart disease. And yeah, so he had, you know, right from we knew when I was pregnant with him, they found it. It was so significant. What do you call it? The abnormality to his heart, that they weren't sure he was going to survive. And so we had to make the decision to move forward with the pregnancy. Like they even, you know, said to us when I was like 4.5 months pregnant, because we found out at the the midterm ultrasound, you know, they said, this might be something that you want to terminate this pregnancy. So, I mean, which just is crazy to hear that, you know, you feel the baby kicking inside of you. You know, it was, I'm trying to keep it together. You know, like it was insane. It was absolutely insane. And so we just, you know, decided to move forward, and there was just no turning back for me. Obviously, there was no way I could do it. And so he was born, and they rushed him off to the NICU, and he seemed fine for, we knew there was surgeries ahead, but he was maintaining. And when he was about 6 weeks old, he really started to go into a massive decline. And they hadn't picked up that his rhythms were off in his heart. Something about it was kicking him into this like crazy heart rate where his body wouldn't be able to kick him out. So it was like he was running, you know, this little 6-week-old infant was like running his hardest, and his heart couldn't kick out of that. And so it sent him into this major decline, and they had to do all of the surgeries that they were going to wait until he was 1 year old and significantly larger. They had to do them then. And so So yeah, it just sent us right into the whole thing. And, the night before his major surgery where they rewired and replumbed and, his heart was like this big, it was like the size of a walnut, they were basically rebuilding it. They told us, we're signing papers, all of those crazy papers of like basically in case he dies, that sort of thing. And they said he had a 70% success rate. And it was scary, just mind-boggling, right? To send your child into this kind of circumstance where you don't know if, how it's going to come out. So anyways, we had so many people in our community rallying for us. That was really the first time that I felt that kind of like community of not seeing all of those, that energy coming in, but knowing it was there, feeling all of that energy from our community, just praying for him and really just rooting for him and for us and all that kind of stuff. And so we went into the surgery, and 6 hours later, the surgeon came out and said, he's doing amazing, way better than we thought. And, just success, just like, it was incredible. They literally saved his life. And so, he started thriving, but he always had like kind of, some, immunity issues and, all that sort of stuff. So, but that was really, during that time, it was really a time for me of finding my practice of gratitude, right? And visualization. And I didn't even know what those things really were at the time, but looking back, that's where that really started. I was visualizing him. No. Takes you right back. Yeah. Visualizing him walking down the aisle at his wedding. Whew. So, and I just kept repeating that over and over and over again. Him graduating high school and throwing his hat in the air and just, projecting his future for him. And so, I do that kind of stuff all the time now, but, that was 12 years ago. And so it really just opened me up to that more spiritual side. And so fast forward a couple years, I'm at home with 2 kids, right? And losing my mind, and I needed something else, and so I love rearranging my home, obviously, and was stuck at home. Not stuck at home. I don't want to use that word.
Come
because
on,
it was my
sometimes
choice.
It feels like you're stuck.
It's definitely a feeling like, I needed something else. And so lo and behold, this book, came into view for me, and I just couldn't get enough of it. And that was Feng Shui Your Life by Jamie Barrett. And I just started it connected all the dots, it connected all those dots for me of like wanting that more spiritual side, and doing the whole architecture and interior design, and just like all of a sudden
everything came together in this like one.
Yeah, my mind was blown. Yeah, absolutely. And that just started me on the journey of manipulating my house, and getting results. And, my husband was the one working at the time, and he had his own business. And so like if a client owed him money, I would like do my thing, in the wealth area, and then boom, we'd get a check the next day, the next day. And it just never failed. And it was awesome. So I was like, oh my God, I need to share this with everyone, So, and that's,
what brings us to today.
Yeah.
Can I just say thank you for sharing that? Like, thank you. That was.
Yeah. It's hard to go back there. So you're welcome. Yeah.
Well, I'm just grateful for that.
We're very blessed to have him be healthy, and he's doing amazing. So, yeah.
And how old is he now?
He's 12. He's going to be 13 this August.
So that makes your daughter 15 because they're
yes. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
And like celebrating his livelihood and happiness and joy right now with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now, because that was Jen. I didn't even say like Jen is speaking. And she's the Feng Shui person, right? So like that's like that was Jen, everybody. So now we're gonna learn a little bit about Amanda, and then we're gonna tie this relationship together. Amanda, you're up.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Let's see an abbreviated version of my story. The way Jen grew up in her space and rearranging, I have always been like a problem solver and like a creative thinker and like how can we look at this differently, and a devil's advocate, and just that kind of like, there's more ways to look at this situation. There's more ways to think about this problem. There's more ways to grow in this circumstance. So I was kind of always that way. And it got in the way sometimes. People were like, I don't want you to solve my problems. I just want you to listen. I'm like, but why do you want to, like, don't you want to like play with it and look at it and tweak it and grow from it and expand and evolve? And they're like, no, I just want to complain. I'm like, no, there's so much to do. So for a long time, I thought there was something wrong with me because I was like seeing all the, like I had the vision of what could come from situation after situation after situation.
From like the time you were like like even like 4 or 5, like were you like when you say I was always this way, I visualized like,
yeah, like
Mom, there's a better way to get to the toy store than this. Do you want to hear about it?
Like, I was always the kid who like I didn't walk on the paths. I cut across the path, like shortest distance possible. Like, what if I use 2 markers at once? Like, just kind of like I just was always thinking and looking at the world in different ways and always connecting people. Like when you say go back, like even as a kid, it was all about connections for me and like those light bulb moments. And so yeah, like I don't know if I go way, way back, but it was, yeah, it's just always been how I think. Like I always felt like I thought differently than other people thought. And I thought that meant something was wrong with me for a long time. I was like, well, this is a problem. This is clearly a problem. Like not everyone, because it can be exhausting sometimes if you don't know what's happening. You're like, why can't I just see it the way other people see it, right? It's like easier to just see it how the world sees it and go with the flow. But I'm like, no, what if we look at it this way? And it can be exhausting, right? So, but I was always drawn to pregnancy and birth. That was my calling. Like I say, birth runs in my blood. Like I was always drawn to like babies and pregnant bellies, and the transformation of birth is what I finally figured out it was. So I went into doula work. I went to midwifery school. I decided to have a family, went into doula work. So that was all about like being with a woman in that transformation, right? Like holding space for her to grow and into this new version of herself, and to look back at her story and tell it in an empowering way, to see it with a lens that gave her power, no matter how the birth went, right? So I went into pregnancy and birth. Then I had my 3rd child, because my kids are 15, 12, and 5. My 3rd child, and I spent 3 months on bed rest. So I spent 3 months on my couch. My kids were like little then. They were like 10 and 7 and like getting themselves ready for school. And like, I could barely shower. I couldn't make them toast. Like it was bad.
Can I ask, okay, I can't help but ask these questions, you guys, right? You know, I'm going to ask what made you have to stay on 3 months of bed rest? Like
no one knew. That was the hardest part. So I was in oncology offices and like I saw every specialist under the sun and nobody knew. And I finally went to a whole, like sort of like an alternative medicine, homeopathic and herbal. And he was like, it's a bacterial infection. I know it is. You just need antibiotics. So then I had to like beg Western medicine for antibiotics. I'm like, but he knows. And they're like, well, we can't just give you antibiotics. And I did. I had amazing support. And I got back on my feet just in time, barely back on my feet, but just in time to give birth to him actually at home, which was like a lifelong dream of mine. My other 2 kids weren't born at home, even though long stories. So his entire pregnancy birth, all of it completely changed me. And I think I'm also the kind of person who needs pretty big wake-up calls from the universe. Like, I have learned since to listen and follow my intuition and hear the messages much sooner. But I'd say up until his birth, like, that was really when I started the process of not waiting for the big wake up calls. But I think that his, that bed rest was me like hitting kind of rock bottom, right? So the interesting part is when I, after he was born, I said yes to something I swore I would never say yes to, because everything felt different, right? Like, from that rock bottom place, I was like, sure, I'm going to try something new. I knew I couldn't go back to the doula practice the same way with 3 kids, because you're on call.
Right.
You disappear for 6 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours. And I did it with 2 kids, and it was hard and it was amazing and I loved it. But I was like, there's no way. After everything with him, like, I can't do that again. So I said yes to network marketing, which I swore I would never do. I was like, no way. It completely changed my life. I learned it was a Chinese medicine company. I loved the product. I loved the company. But what I really loved most was the coaching. And so for me, the growing the team and helping people get inspired about changing who they were and personal growth and development, that was the magic. And so that was what I
Frozen dance, frozen dance. It's a little bit of frozen dance. Come on now, zoom. Come on now, zoom. Come on now, zoom. And come on back, Mercury retrograde doing its thing. Na 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 na. Please come back. I'm gonna get kicked out. Someone's gonna get kicked out of this podcast. I don't even know if it's me that's being recorded right now or if it's them. I do know that they got kicked out. So that might be me on the recording end. But that's okay, because that's better. They'll come back. I know they'll come back. There you guys are.
Oh, sorry.
You don't have to. I did a song. It's called The Frozen Dance. And so, like, I did a whole dance and a song. And so, like, people listening to the podcast were probably like, what? My husband will clip it out for the actual audio part. But when it comes to the video, we leave it all in because it's way fun to see the whole kit and caboodle. You don't need to apologize.
I love that. We're back.
Mercury retrograde at its best.
all right.
So can I ask what the name of the Chinese medicinal herb company you work for? Because I'm super curious.
Alphay, A-L, like P-H-A-Y, P-H-A-Y.
Yeah.
Alphay. And it's based on traditional Chinese medicine. It's all medicinal mushroom blends.
Ah.
Based on
We
the
take
5
them
elements.
both, of us, every day. We give them to our families. Like, it's the magic sauce. Yeah.
I've heard that mushrooms are magic.
Yeah.
And not in the I'm getting tripped out kind of way. Although people are using them now in spiritual practices. So, I mean, they really are the all-encompassing right now.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Try selling mushrooms to people.
I know, they're like, are they trippy? Are they gonna
I believe it. But I actually once knew somebody who had gone through like all this cancer treatment of their stomach, and it was mushrooms that healed them.
Yeah.
So I understand the power and the presence that mushrooms have in their healing capabilities. So that's super cool. Yeah. So I think we're getting to the part of the story now where this relationship forms.
Yeah. So I went from network marketing and I was like, whoa, my favorite part of network marketing is the coaching. And I was like, I can just coach. Like, I've learned so much through network marketing that I'm just going to coach. And that was before I went and got a certification, which was amazing. But so I was coaching and working with people and like seeing amazing transformation, but doing the work on the inside. If they had something in their home that was reinforcing old beliefs, it like would, they'd have to work so hard to help it to really stay and click. And then Jen was working with people on the external space, but like if they had old beliefs that they didn't know how to see from that different perspective, they didn't know how exactly they were creating the results that they were getting in their life, then they just keep like almost, the clutter would build up in the same pile over and over again. Mm-hmm. Or they'd buy another home with the same missing area, or like that kind of stuff. Like the stories for both of us, like we were doing amazing work, but it just was like needing that extra edge.
Okay, but like, can I just ask you, like, you guys grew up in the same town? Like, did you know each other? Like you guys were in and out of each other's lives? You have kids the same age? Was it a schoolyard thing? Like,
yeah. So 12 and 15, our older kids or my older kids, our kids are the same age. Jen actually, we do live in the same area. Jen was in my older brother's class in high school. So we were both hometown girls, but we weren't close. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We knew each other on the playground a little bit from our kids growing up. And then we were in some business groups together, some like entrepreneur circles, and going like, wait a second, you're a woman from Western Mass who sees the world differently, and you're a woman from Western Mass who sees the world differently. Like, and it just formed more and more conversations.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we started talking Feng Shui, right? You introduced, I introduced Feng Shui to you, and we like revamped her whole house, and we were talking Alpha, and I got hooked on Alpha, and yeah, it just, and then you started to move into, well, you should tell your,
I hosted a retreat. I hosted a women's retreat. Was like 6 or 8 women, and I drove home from the retreat and I didn't have my aha moment at the retreat because I was facilitating it. But on the way home, I just had this like light bulb moment that I was supposed to work with another co-coach. I'm very much like, I'm an introvert, but I'm very much like, I want to bounce ideas off of somebody, and like, I want to work with people, which was partly why I love network marketing so much. Like, I want to be in it with someone. Like, I want to have an idea and say it out loud and get feedback and process it and like move it forward. I also like to move fast, and I can move a lot faster with that interaction. So I left my own retreat and was like, I got to co-coach with someone. And I called Jen and I was like, Jen, I have an idea for a program. It's run completely around Feng Shui with life coaching, like as the other half. And she was like, I'm in. And then that was
how long ago was that?
That was the retreat was in March of 2018.
Yep. So like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Because like first of all, like I think it's amazing that you guys were going and doing the groundwork, right? Because I want to touch on that a little bit. Like you met in like networking events for women. Is that kind of like met, not like started to have the conversations?
Oh, right. Like we knew each other, but we were not talking like this. We weren't talking personal development on the playground. No. We were talking like teachers and yeah.
But I'm just saying from the perspective of a listener who's like launching a business and they're like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm going to do. How do I meet people? How do I go here? How do, like, you know what I mean? And so like both of you were putting in the time, like you were in it separately for different things, but you were, putting some momentum behind your own personal businesses. And, I always say, clarity comes with movement. It's one of my favorite things. Right. And so like that, like you both, if you guys hadn't been at these network events together.
Right. Well, I think, we really, as entrepreneurs, that's not something that, is very small town, I'm air quoting. And so being an entrepreneur and, stepping out of the 9 to 5 or whatever, is really kind of, and I say 9 to 5, I just mean like those normal patterns and paths that people take. And so I think Amanda and I started talking to each other because it's very isolating being an entrepreneur that way, and wanting to start, a woo-woo business, and, like, how the hell do you have conversations about Feng Shui with people on the playground? They're like, okay, there's Jen, and they're crazy. So we were willing to go there, with each other. And so we just kind of expanded our friendship that way, and talking about business. And Amanda's always like, you're like the brainstorm queen. So if I had an issue, she'd be like, have you tried this? And what about that? And I'd be like, oh my God, you're brilliant, and it would, we had a dynamic that really,
but you're right. We both had invested time and money and energy and failures, and we had done a lot of our own groundwork before we came together. And put the pieces together. Right. It was definitely not like, let's meet on the playground and start a business.
Right. Exactly.
Well, so it was only a couple weeks ago, or like a month and a half ago, I had two people legitimately who did not know each other. Like, you guys lived in the same town and circled, and it was somebody had messaged what would be their partner on Instagram, just as a random, hey, we have the same last name. And that ended up, butting into a collaborated business too, right? So, like, I think it's a fascinating way in which, and like, the fact is, and I was talking to Jen when we were talking on the phone this day, like, is like, a lot of people don't hear about women working together and, co-creating and collaborating in a beautiful way to make incredible magic with people, right? Because there's been this stereotype, if you will, of cattiness and competitiveness with women, right? And so, like, can you touch upon like what the last year and a bit have been like together in this business as to, like,
I wonder what it would have been like. I wonder what it would be like to, message somebody and have the same last name and start a business, because we do have so much history, and we had been watching each other for so long that we knew the vibe was good and the chemistry was good. And for that reason, and because we're both pretty laid back, like, flexible people, it's been seamless. Yeah. Like, honestly, and we both do our own work. Like, if we have a thought we don't like about our business or about each other or about ourselves in our business, we do the work on ourselves, and then we come back in, right? So we had good chemistry, we had good background. It's like really honestly been seamless.
And we did, we're products of our own creation, as far as the program that we provide for people. We went through, like, we tested it out on ourselves, so to make sure that it was, something that we wanted to share, and we were getting such amazing results. And so we did a lot of the work that, energetic work about balancing those kinds of things out, and understanding, I think we're both competitive, but we're not competitive with each other, And so I think it's healthy to be somewhat competitive, but not with your business partner or any, in any kind of relationship like that. So we both understood, and through, I guess my point is that doing the work, we really started to see where our strengths were, right? And so we played to our strengths instead of, getting fixated on the fact that
split the emailing equally.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm better at more techie stuff, and she's better at coming up with the ideas. Like, so I can build the whole email out and she does the content, like, it's really a nice balance that way. And I don't get caught up on the fact that she is the ideas lady. Like, she comes up with such amazing things, but I have my strengths, I'm really tuned into, like, my intuitive side. And so I can read someone's house, I can read people and know what's going on with them, and then let her know. And then she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'll work on that with them, with their thoughts. And so we really, because we did the work and we understood our strengths and we understood our weaknesses.
And we understand each
other. Through doing the work as well, right? That things were not in that competitive form.
I have so many questions, and if you don't mind, like, you guys, like, I'm just fascinated with this whole collaboration thing. Like, I think it's fantastic. So then I'm like, you had just mentioned that you split yourselves into your strengths, right? So, you know, at one point you were trying to both do the email and both do like everything. How far into the relationship did you guys kind of like have that aha where you were like, oh, okay, it's not working to try and manage it all together. Like, I'll take this and this and this, and you do that and that and that, and we'll combine it and it'll be awesome.
I think it was a little bit of a dance, you know,
Yeah.
like we kind of, you know, we had to, in the beginning, be like, okay, you try this, you know, and then I'll try this. And, you know, just figuring out, you know, where that rhythm was. We just, like you said, you know, being clarity's in what did you say?
Clarity comes with movement.
Comes with movement, right? So we just tried. We just
Yeah,
like
we
put things
tried it.
into action and tried. And if it didn't feel right to me, then I would say, you know, be honest with Amanda about what that, you know, maybe she could support me, you know, in that, or, you know, if she was like, I'm just struggling with this so much, you know, I just feel like this isn't for me, maybe you can dive into it, then I would try and take on the task or whatever. So we just had a really nice,
I think you
flux
hit
that
a
way.
really, for me, like the most important thing that we kind of set early on was like, I support you 100%. So you try it. I'm going to support whatever you do. And if it doesn't work, we'll fix it. Like, or we'll readjust it. Or we'll, but like, we kind of go in with the assumption that the other person is doing exactly what should be done.
Right.
Versus like, I don't know, Jen, you can try it. It might work.
Right.
I don't really think it's going to work. I'm just like, you got an idea. I am all in. I'm 100% on whatever it is.
Right.
And like, so there's this like,
there's no micromanagement.
there's this
kind of
super
stuff. Yeah.
commitment to each other's, like, I trust Jen's intuitive gifts and she trusts mine. So if one of us has like a hit or a download or an idea, we're just like, roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that comes from a trust in our own faith of, you know, the universe and all that kind of stuff.
Right, like it's not just the two of us, it's us and her team and my team and our team. Right.
And they're doing their spiritual team and they're like, you know, support team up. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you can see that. But when you're listening to the video, it's like, I love that we all talk with our hands so much. And it's like, you know, that's these people right here. That are with us. Right?
Actually, this is a funny story. If you have time for a super quick story, we went to an event with a medium, and neither of us had been to a group event with a medium. We were both like,
never experienced it in my life.
Should we go? Should we not go? I feel like we should both go. And this medium got to this place where she was like, you two, they're cheering for you. Like,
it still gives me chills.
Like, I know, like she nailed our team, which was partly relatives, like my relatives and her relatives, but then partly like guru people who are amazing. And we were just like, all right, I guess we're on the right path.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful.
That was very validating.
That was like a year. No, that wasn't. It was about 6 months after we started together. So we also have that to like fall back into, or like, not only do we have our own source of like angels and guides and like support, we have literally a team. Like we have people supporting what we do together. Yeah.
Which is amazing. Like a lot of people don't have that level. And you even like kind of hit it on the head when you say like entrepreneurship in itself can feel rather lonely. And I mean, Amanda, you're kind of used to it, having said like, I thought differently than most people most of my life. And I thought I was strange or different, right? But becoming an entrepreneur and seeing the world through an entrepreneur's eyes, and you realize that there is only limitless possibility. And like, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you're like, everybody, you see this world? And they're like, what are you talking? You can't like change the people around you. So you do get into that level of like slight discomfort as you expand away from your friends and family. And they're like, we don't know what you're fucking saying. We have no idea who you're becoming or what do you work? Do you actually work? You know, like those kinds of comments.
I love that one. Yeah. I love that one. You just hit a button, girl.
And you're like, did I, Jen? Can I share about that?
You know, I think it comes from like being just always having like a creative, you know, before I got married, I traveled around the west of, the Western United States and sold hats and scarves. I made like fleece hats and scarves and, had a pretty decent following. And, so even back then.
Before the internet.
Before the
Facebook.
internet. Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing.
Right. And I just making my way trying to do that. And after graduating and having, a degree in architecture and a degree in interior design and, having my parents pay for school and everybody being like, what the hell are you doing traveling around selling hats, So, I just have.
These are well-designed hats.
Yes. People, so I have not been in business for 15 years. I sold the company 15 years ago after my daughter was born, and people still are wearing the hats and sending pictures of them wearing the hats. They're still, they're just really well made and super comfy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, how cute is that? That's like an amazing story. I'm sorry. I'm so glad we interjected that in, because again, it's like you were born an entrepreneur. Like you were born like seeing the world through a different lens as well.
Right.
And so I think it's pretty freaking amazing. So tell me what your program is called. If you don't mind, because I think that's like the name is like, I'm always like, maybe I read too much fantasy, but the name is like so important.
Together we are Connected Growth Coaching. And so we brought, Amanda takes all of our clients through a series of, it's a Y word. You should probably explain this, but my Y word is connection and her Y word is growth. And so it became Connected Growth. And so we just, it has developed in so many ways and like has so many layers and all of those amazing things. Every time, we develop a new layer or a new understanding to our work, we're like, oh my God, it's Connected Growth, So, so that is, our company together. But I don't know if you want to explain like the Y word or if that's.
No, I mean, we can, but in terms of programs, we have an automated-ish program.
But you still get one-on-one attention.
Still with one-on-one attention. And then we have like a traditional, like meet weekly, have an hour call, dig into the nitty-gritty. So the automated-ish program is called the Feng Shui School. So it's really a little more Feng Shui heavy and learning the basics of, it's like Feng Shui 101 with a heavy life coaching twist.
Right.
And then the other program is called, it's funny you said that about names, because we've actually been on the fence about the name of this call.
Did you hear or sense our hesitation when you said name? We're like
It's called Unlock Success, but I think it gives sometimes the wrong impression that it's about this like massive monetary success, or which can happen depending on what the success is you're looking for.
Or maybe it's like, business focused or that kind of thing. And so,
it's more really unlocked potential, right? It's like, what is the success you want in your life? Do you want to be the best mom you can be? Do you want to be the best community member you can be? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to, right? It's like, how do you want to love your life? Let's unlock and create that success. So that's funny you said that about names.
I've never said it before, so I'm only like from an energy person to any energy person, right? Like it's like
totally nailed us. Oh my God, I love it.
It's totally funny. You can't make this stuff up, right? Like it's like the truest of vibrational stuff.
But I was just reading the web page this morning, our Unlocked Success web page this morning, and being like, wow, I love it. I love all the copy on there. It's so good. And it really was like resonating with me, but still it's the name Unlocked Success. I don't know if is exactly there, we basically were like from hot mess to unlocked success, And
I like that.
It's cute. Yeah.
That was where it came from.
Yep.
That is so fun. And I think that it's really important, something that you said, because I get the same thing with the Chakra Business Academy when people are like, well, what's the result? And I'm like, well, you clear enough space within you to receive whatever the universe is bringing you. And they're like, what's that? I'm like, well, I don't know yet. It depends on you, right? Like it's, well, I don't know what the universe is trying to get to you. Let's get in there and figure it out. So I think those in our world completely understand when we're looking at it from, like, maybe not everyone understands that it could be anything and all things at once, right? It doesn't have
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, exactly. So just as an example, some of our clients have literally met the love of their lives,
or ended a relationship,
that happened too, or
started
businesses, never thought
quit their jobs.
Yeah, exactly, or all of the above,
So on that one. So that's really when you get into the level of energy work, right? Mm-hmm. When we look at it from that perspective, which I think that you guys really do well.
Yeah. Right? Well, we do an entire process before we start with the one-on-one coaching that is essentially us reading into their energy, connecting with each other, understanding who they are, where they came from, and where they want to go. And we put together this energetic playbook, right? Here's your guide. We call it
a thrival guide. Yeah.
Now we're going to walk you through it so you can learn how to use it. Yeah. But it's basically your formula is not the same as our other client. So we got to figure out what your formula is based on the work Jen does and the work I do. And then we're going to teach you how to follow your own formula.
That is so in-depth and so personal and so wonderful. I hope everyone's listening and going damn, I want a thrival guide. That sounds amazing.
Me up.
Right? And if they were I want some of that. I want me some Amanda and Jen in my life. I need some Feng Shui help, because I don't think people really understand how important Feng Shui is in the greater scheme of things. And it's something that, can be a small shift that makes a huge difference in mindset. We can't even get started on mindset. And they're like, where can I find you guys? Where would they go to find you?
Connected Growth Coaching.
Yep. ConnectedGrowthCoaching.com. That's us. Yep.
And then I like to totally end with one really important question.
Ooh, this is going to be good.
It's my own fascination. This is just important to me to ask. And because I am an addict in this, what I'm about to ask you, and you're not allowed to say more than one.
Oh God.
I know, right? Somebody asked me this question once. She's like, what's your favorite frozen pizza? So if you ask me the same question, I'm going to be like, what?
No. The first answer is the right answer. Don't let your mind get involved.
Okay.
Into the listeners of the show. But you guys each need to share the one book that was the most pivotal book in your life.
Oh, I got that right away.
That's easy.
Yeah. Oh, well, then that's good.
Yeah. For me, it was A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. When I read that book, I was like, it just totally, everything I thought he put into words. And obviously much more eloquent words than I had thought. But it was just when you read a book and it all makes sense, but you could never have laid it out, right? So for me, that was the book. I was in my early 20s, I think. And I read
I'm in awe that you guys started reading these kinds of books in your 20s. I'm just that's so amazing.
Yeah. It was a game changer. That was the one.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, Jen.
Yeah. So mine, I mentioned it earlier, actually.
The 7.
Yeah. Feng Shui Your Life.
Oh, Feng Shui Your Life.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if you were going to say 7 Spiritual Laws by Deepak.
Me too. I was like, Deepak and Tolle? Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I carried that book, the 7 Spiritual Laws, around with me as more as a lucky charm kind of thing.
Right.
And would dive into it periodically, but it was deep. It was really deep, and it was not something, all of the concepts in there were not things that I was familiar with. And so I was taking it at little tidbits at a time. And, but when I read Feng Shui Your Life by Jamie Barrett, that I had the same kind of
moment.
Oh my God, how have I not known this, or maybe I have known this, but I've never been able to put it into words.
I'm having all these thoughts and feelings as her business partner that I haven't read this book. I gotta go read that book.
I think I have The New Earth too, but I never got through it. So
well, look at that, guys. This could be more insight into each other just by reading this.
I'll be on a call with a client and I'm like, oh, you're whatever. That's Jen's world. Right. I know a lot of Feng Shui. I could probably walk a client through a whole Feng Shui call. But I also, like, it's nice to just be like, no, that's Jen.
Yeah.
Go talk to Jen.
Right.
Well, you guys have been doing this together. You must have heard it, seen it, felt it, known it, being in her energy for all of this time. And I'm sure, Jen, you're picking up on like that stuff too, right? Like, you can throw that down like it's hot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I just kind of want to say, because you guys are saying like your books, the ones where you're like, that's me. How could you put me in a book and then like put it out there? And I was the untethered soul. Like when I read that.
That book has come up.
That's on my shelf too. I gotta read it.
You guys haven't read it?
No.
Oh. It is like
literally just came up again last week, and I was like, I have got to read that book this summer.
Oh man, I don't tell people books at the end. Like, you gotta like, this is coming, like it's all coming through with messages today.
Clearly, we need to pull that one off the shelf. Okay.
We are on it.
Yep, I'll go put it on my nightstand.
I'm gonna message you guys in like a couple weeks and go, and what you think? And game changer. But like, that is like the book that I was like, yeah, like I read it in 2 days. Like, there's people that take forever to read it, and I was like, there is no stopping. Like, I just gotta keep.
I'm reading Camping next week then.
Oh, nice.
Amazon Prime. Okay, here we go.
Amazon Prime for life. I love that. Guys, thank you so much for coming and sharing your magic and going deep with me and the listeners today. That was truly powerful and magical, and I love your energies together. It's so fun.
Thank you.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you
absolute
so
pleasure.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll be in touch. And everybody listening, I'm so grateful. And for, I don't know when this is like actually going to go out into the world, but I stopped doing Transformation Tuesdays, which is just my solo podcast. So if you have been listening to the podcast and going like, what is happening? I just want you guys to know I'm just taking a small break, getting the blind leap out into the world and doing my jam. And when it's time to come back, it will. There's no right or wrong here. Just know yourselves. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you again, Amanda and Jen, and have a magical day.